All right, so my next problem, I have 3x cubed plus x squared minus 3x minus 1. So P and Q. P is equal to 1, Q is equal to 3. So my possible rational roots, PRZ, is plus or minus the factors of P over the factors of Q. And Q, I've got 1 times 3. P, I've got 1 times 1. Oops, I wrote a 3 again. 1 times 1. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. So that's going to be plus or minus 1 and plus or minus 1/3. So now I'm going to graph. And I already went ahead and graphed this to, again, save a little bit of time. And now I'm looking at it, and it looks like I might have more than one root, more than one rational root here. So let's just be sure. So second trace, 0. So let's find this one over here. So left bound, right bound, guess, -1. All right, that's on my list, so I just wrote it down. Then the next one, so second trace, 0. Second, try this again. There we go. Second trace, 0. Boy, I'm having all kinds of problems here. Second trace, 0. There we go. So left bound, right bound, guess. And I have a 0 at -0.3333, which I know off the top of my head, and I know you do too, is -1/3. Okay, so that's also in my chart. So I'm going to do second trace, 0, and left bound, right bound, enter, 1. All right. So this problem is a little different because I have 3 rational roots instead of just 1 rational root. So I'm going to need to prove each of these using synthetic division. So I'm going to start with -1. So -1, I've got 3, 1, -3, -1. So let's go ahead, bring down our 3. So -1 times 3 is -3. That gives me -2. -1 times -2 is +2. That gives me -1. -1 times -1 is +1. That gives me 0. So -1 is a rational root of this polynomial. So now let's go ahead and do +1. So I'm going to bring down my 3. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 plus 3 is 4. 1 times 4 is 4. -3 plus 4 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Again, remainder of 0. So also a rational root. Last but not least, -1/3. So 3, 1, -3, -1. I'm going to bring down the 3. 3 times -1/3 is going to give me -3. Oh, I'm sorry, -1. Silly me. There we go. So yes, 3 times -1/3 gives me -1. So 1 minus 1 is 0. 0 times -1/3 is 0. So that gives me a -3. -1/3 times -3 gives me a +1. And so I have my remainder of 0. So my rational roots are going to be -1, 1, and -1/3.